Hey guys, it's Luca. I don't even know what YouTube channel this will be on, but this is basically a video I wanted to make talking about this deck in Pioneer, Lotus Field Combo Deck, which basically kind of you get a Lotus Field into play, you copy it with Thespian Stage if you can, and then you make a bunch of mana with Hidden Strings and pour over the pages, makes you a little bit of mana, and you kind of just combo off from there. Eventually, using Mastermind's acquisition to find Approach of the Second Sun and casting that twice. So that's this deck. I do think it's so I've been playing a lot of Pioneer lately, and so far this is like the deck I've liked the most. It's the kind of deck that's well positioned if it's a small portion of the metagame because there's very specific hate cards that are good against this deck. Like Damping Sphere is really good against you. And also cards that like can extract the card from your library. So if someone can remove the Mastermind's acquisition out of your deck, you also can't win, which is awkward. And that's something I'll talk about when I'll talk about the deck list. Some people like to have two of these, or they'll have like one of these, and they'll have the fairy that searches for something from your sideboard. Um, so yeah, so anyways, positioning. I think this deck is well positioned. There's a lot of decks that you kind of automatically win against. Any kind of mid-range deck that doesn't have blue or black, so they don't have any counterspell or discard, you can very easily beat them game one. And usually post-board you can beat them pretty easily as well. And just in general, like people don't have damping spheres in their sideboard because this just isn't a very big part of the metagame yet. Also, Joint Exploration was recently printed. This is a nice upgrade to the deck. I don't think it's a 4 of, but I think it's like a 2 or a 3 of. It's really nice way to both give you some card selection and let you play an additional land. Playing an additional land in this deck is very good because you kind of rely on playing 2 lands, playing a Lotus Field, then playing a Thespian Stage. So you kind of rely on the 4 land drops to win. And so getting an extra land drop with our Boreal Grazer or Joint Exploration can let you combo off a turn earlier. So basically I think it's well positioned because we got a new card that's good in the deck, and also because the metagame has shifted. Also, there's like now there's these Karuga decks that are new, and the Karuga decks are just kind of like your typical, like all the fires decks are like slow mid-range decks. Like this deck's really good against any deck that's playing fires because they can't interact with you when you're comboing off, and they're just kind of like a slow mid-range deck. So let's talk about some of the card choices. So one of the biggest changes I made to this deck, most people when they play this deck are, let's see, are playing only, let's see, 25 lands. So most people are playing 3 Balrogate Recovery and 22 lands. I found that most of my losses with this deck were from like not being able to hit my land drops. Also, there's a lot of times you just really want to keep a hand with Lotus Field and 1 land, and you just want to draw that extra land. So that was probably the biggest change I made to the deck. I'm playing 27 lands. I'm playing the full 4 Temple of Mystery. I think Temple of Mystery is really good. Like I would play more than 4 if I could. I cut a Boseiju. I don't want to get into situations where Boseiju is really good, but I don't know. I don't want to get into situations where I can't play a land because I have 2 Boseijus, which does come up. And a lot of times, whatever you're trying to Boseiju, like your Adawara works just as well. It's like that difference of 2 mana usually doesn't really matter because usually it's like end of turn, like bounce whatever permanent I don't like the Damping Sphere, and then I'll combo off and win on my turn. The deck creates so much mana that the extra 2 mana doesn't usually matter. But what does matter is like getting into situations where you can't cast your second Boseiju because you already have one in play. So I added the 4th Balrogate Recovery, the 4th Temple of Mystery, and I'm playing Seagate Restoration, so I cut Boseiju for a Seagate Restoration. I think it's nice just to have one more like big spell to draw lots of cards. And if for some reason like you don't have some of your big drops left in the deck, it is a target for Emergent Ultimatum. I'm testing it. It's also obviously amazing if you have oh, it's cut off. Wait. There's also Omniscience in this deck, yeah. Shoot. Now I can't see the rest of my deck. Wait, let's do this. So Magic Online can get pretty awkward with the taskbar, so let's hide the taskbar. Okay. So if you have Omniscience in play, okay, it's not letting me. If you have Omniscience in play, Seagate Restoration is obviously really nice, but usually you should be winning anyways when you have Omniscience in play. So that was the main changes I made. I added 2 more lands to the deck. Some of the other choices, I don't like playing 4 Arboreal Grazer. It's so bad in multiples. Sometimes it's just completely like Arboreal Grazer is weird because sometimes it's just amazing, and sometimes it's completely useless. Like if you don't have enough lands in your hand, it doesn't do anything at all. When you're comboing off, it doesn't do anything at all. I found that I like 3 because also I always found myself like sideboarding one out. So I like 3 Arboreal Grazer. I like 3 Joint Exploration. This card is also pretty bad in multiples. Like it's really like a 3-drop. It's not so great at 2 mana. So this deck, what ends up happening with this deck is you usually play like a tap land on turn 1. Turn 2, you play an untapped land, you play a 2-drop. You usually play like a Sylvan Scrying, Charter Course. And then turn 3, you play your Lotus Field. So unlike most decks where on turn 3 you get to play a 3-drop, in this deck on turn 3 you play another 2-drop. So there's really not a lot of space for 3-drops in this deck. So that's why I like 3 Joint Exploration. That's pretty much and then I've got 3 Emergent Ultimatum, 1 Peer into the Abyss, 1 Behold the Beyond. I think that's pretty normal. 1 Omniscience. I don't like playing main deck Baral because I feel like it just dies to everything. Like your opponent has so much dead removal, so I like siding in the Baral when they side out their removal. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck. I really like Balagad Recovery. I really like it as a 4-of. Most of the time, it's just a land drop. This deck loves land drops. You have cards like Arboreal Grazer, Joint Exploration, and Lotus Field that really are hungry for land drops. But when you're comboing off, it's actually +1 mana a lot of the times because you can Balagad Recovery for Hidden Strings. So that's 7 mana untap, or that's 5 mana untap, 6 mana. So it's even when you're comboing, it's still relevant. Also, lots of times, like if your Master's Acquisition's in your graveyard, you need to bring it back, or otherwise you can't win. It just lets you do lots of stuff, or maybe your Supreme Verdict's in your graveyard, or your Omniscience is in your graveyard. There's lots of 1-ups in the deck that you kind of need to combo off. In terms of sideboard, I do like having Zakama in the sideboard. Some people play this, some people don't. I like it. Sometimes you get into weird situations where you can't like combo, and then usually you just get Zakama and you just kill them with this. Especially if they have like hate enchantments in play, like I don't know, Ley Lines, Rest in Pieces, I don't know. Python Needle is pretty much only for mono green Devotion, which is probably the most, maybe like one of the top 3 decks in the metagame. You play this, you name Karn, the Great Creator, and then they pretty much can't interact with you. So it's pretty much just for that matchup. Maybe it has some other uses that I haven't realized yet. Sometimes I like to have one of these in the grindier matchups, where speed doesn't really matter. It just comes down to cards and card selection. Also, you may get into a weird situation where you just need to get a card draw spell with your Mastermind's Acquisition, and this is your only card draw spell in the sideboard. So in a pinch, it could help you there. Narset's reversal is really sick in certain matchups. You can hit like Pour Over the Pages, you can hit Treasure Cruise, Temporal Trespass, Dig Through Time are like really good cards to hit with this. Also in the mirror match, you can hit like Emergent Ultimatum, Pour Over the Pages, right? So it's really it's the kind of sideboard card I like to have where it's just like super high value in certain matchups. I like setting in Brawl lots of times against decks that are setting out all their creature removal because creature removal is really bad against you. Sometimes 9 lives buys you an extra turn or two. It's a target for your Mastermind's acquisition. You never sat it in or anything. Leyline of Sanctity is amazing against red-black. Maybe I want more copies, I don't know. And then this is your win condition. And Anger of the Gods is good in certain matchups. Supreme Verdict, especially good against like the creature decks with counters like Spirits. And one Mystical Dispute. So that's the deck. And now I think I'll go through the last league that I played. But maybe I'll do it in another video.